If you've been following my channel, you'll know that I've been working on a hypothetical U.S.-Iran war, which unfortunately in the last couple minutes or hours, days, has somewhat went from hypothetical to reality. Israel's been striking Iran for 2 weeks, and the President of the United States just announced that we have struck Iranian nuclear sites. And this was obviously something that we had been positioning the B-2s. For those who aren't extremely familiar with the site, one site in particular, it's built kind of into a mountain, and Israel lacked the capabilities conventionally to be able to destroy it. And so it would require to have a credible threat. The One of the U.S. Bunker buster bombs, extremely large conventional bomb, and Israel's Air Force lacks capability to carry those bombs. And the United States has been positioning the B-2 stealth bomber, which can carry two. Each of them can carry two. I believe there's 10 in the region. And so, you can kind of do the math. It also sounds like in the last couple hours, there's been a massive electronic warfare going on. People in Iran are reporting degraded cell phones, service, and numerous other things that kind of go along with that. More than likely, that was U.S. electronic warfare operations while these B-2 bombers were going in and preparing to make their strikes. According to Trump, they are on their way out, and they've been successful as far as not having been shot down, and they're safely on the way home. So, so what does this mean? What does this mean? First, had a couple people reach out since the news kind of hit. Um, what does that mean to us? Well, as far as anyone knows, in all credibility, Iran does not have a nuclear weapon at this time. And even if they were or had some type of dirty bomb or something, they do not have a weapons delivery system or anything that would threaten the continental mainland, or the entirety of the 50 U.S. states. There's no real threat at this point, unless this were to escalate involving other countries, like a Russia or China, which there'd be, again, that even if there's some relationships there, Russia's not going to risk their own country getting nuked in return to start striking the United States when the United States is using conventional munitions against Iran. Now, that's not to say things cannot escalate. Obviously, my channel focuses on escalations, and things can escalate and spiral very quickly, but this in and of itself doesn't mean that Russia's getting ready to start launching nuclear weapons at us. Iran does not have any type of nuclear weapon systems that would be able to strike the United States. So U.S. citizens are not currently at risk. Now, you can always say maybe some type of terrorist act, stuff like that, but that's a reality that any country can face at any time. What would be at risk right now would be there's approximately 50,000 U.S. military personnel stationed around Iran that could be at risk from Iranian linked militias. And so the last time when the U.S. struck the general in 2020, Iran made a kind of a small missile attack, which is really just a show of force. It wasn't intentional to try to cause any real damage, basically a face saving thing. They also inadvertently shot down a commercial jet. That was not their intention to do so, but they did. That was trying to take off out of Iran. So there is a large amount of U.S. military personnel that could be at risk. So some of the weapon systems that Iran has that doesn't necessarily have the capability to reach Israel because they've been launching several ballistic missiles at Israel. They would the shorter range ones they could hit U.S. troops. So there is a risk there, and again, that depends on how much Iran would want to escalate. Would they want to do anything? Would they want to make some type of show of force, or would they be serious about causing harm to U.S. bases? They have certainly made threats about it. You also have their aligned Houthi rebels or Houthi government, depending on your perspective and how much they control in Yemen, which could also start targeting commercial shipping again. We had kind of had somewhat of a truce after the last U.S. strikes against Yemen, where they basically said they're going to back off. They're only going to target Israeli things. They're not going to target U.S. assets or non-Israeli shipping, commercial shipping vessels. That could pick back up certainly, and there could be definitely a threat against U.S. bases. But on its own, right now, nuclear bombs aren't going to start dropping out of the sky, hitting American cities. Now, again, you say there's never a zero-sum risk, but you have to tell yourself, no matter how much, and trust me, Russia and Iran's, geopolitical standing with each other has been strained. In fact, as of late, India and Iran have been making some inroads as far as alignment goes. But a country's generally not going to put themselves at risk for a nuclear retaliation just based on having some pre-existing relationship. It's not like they have a NATO creed that would say, we have to strike back if somebody hits Iran. I mean, certainly Israel's been hitting Iran, for 2 weeks now. We haven't seen any other engagement from any other country. Now, that's not to say, personal opinion, whether we should be doing this or not. Certainly, this does represent an escalation. The U.S. is something that since 1979, as long as I've been alive, U.S. presidents have went out of their way to avoid a direct conflict with Iran. We've had some stuff, especially during the Iran-Iraq war, naval engagements and stuff in the Persian Gulf, this area right here. But we have not had a direct thing bombing, mainland interior of Iran. That has now changed. So definitely represents an escalation. Israel and itself, like I said, the nuclear site's near this area. I'm not sure its exact location. It's in a mountain. Their only way they could have potentially destroyed it would have been with their nuclear-tipped Jericho cruise missiles. And even then, that's a kind of, don't know if that's necessarily a guarantee. There is no guarantee, of course, that these strikes with the bunker buster, the GBU 57s, that they would necessarily work either, for that matter. It's very hard to destroy a hardened target built into a mountain, especially with conventional munitions. That's the reason why nuclear weapons are very effective. And so trying to use conventional is not as effective. It'll remain to be seen, and there's so much misinformation when it comes out to this. We've seen it with the Ukraine conflict. We've seen it with the recent thing between India and Pakistan. I mean, during the India-Pakistan conflict, the Pakistan government put out a video of what they were claiming was footage from the strikes, and it was from the Arma 3 video game. And that was from government. There's AI, deepfakes, there's all kinds of stuff. So, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt. In fact, Iran's put out stuff that they had shot down F-35s from Israel. I believe it's the F-35I, but I could be confusing that with the F-15I. I didn't prepare for this video. I mean, it just literally just happened. But the video, the footage that Iran released of the F-35 shot down is clearly just AI. It does look like they may have shot down maybe a couple drones, but no F-35s have been shot down. No reliable evidence whatsoever. I'm just demoing right now some Jericho missiles going into that site. From a casualty standpoint, beyond the people that may be working at that nuclear site, even nuclear strikes here with these 20 kiloton warheads wouldn't cause an enormous amount of casualties against Iran because, again, mountains are very good deterrent against containing the blast of a nuclear weapon. And you're not striking directly into a city, provided that they strike on target. You'd be striking outside of it. Not to say there wouldn't be casualties. Certainly there would be casualties. And the casualties would be higher than if it was conventional munitions. But the very act of crossing a nuclear threshold, even a country like Israel, which has always kind of carried a motto of disproportionate retaliation, wouldn't want that kind of pariah status. So we look 7,000 casualties. Like I said, it's not, due to the location, it wouldn't be enormous. It's more the symbolism behind it. And of course, you'd have fallout. There would be, there would be issues, certainly. But not to say, if we were to do the same thing, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, whoops, that's because that's what's already been used. If we were to do that same kind of bomb, 3 of them in their capital, you would see a significantly larger amount of casualties there. Doing this real fast. So I'm going to put out a better video, kind of what's been going on with the conflict up this point, and where, if it were to escalate, how it could escalate. But I just wanted to put this out tonight so people don't think like World War III starts tonight. We're going to see nuclear bombs start flying the next couple hours. Not going to happen. Still a very serious escalation. Definitely something where, people have campaigned on America first, and getting us into another Mideast engagement didn't seem to be something that should have been on the radar, but it has absolutely had. Especially with the focus on a shift towards the Southeast Asia and a containment of China to some level, or protection of Taiwan. Well, it seems like we can't get free of this quagmire here. Whether this is just an attempt at getting Iran more serious about negotiations, or is this going to lead for tit for tat? If U.S. bases start getting hit in the region, what's that going to look like? We won't know now for a couple of days. But you cannot start dropping bombs without a possibility of things getting worse and worse at that point. And even if, like, a Russia wouldn't want to be directly engaged in it, they got their own war they're fighting with Ukraine, things can happen. What if a plane carrying Russian advisors gets shot down? Any number of things that could happen that can lead to escalation, even if it's not intended. So definitely a risk, but there's not an immediate risk tonight. So stay tuned. If you haven't, check out some of my previous Israeli-Iran escalation videos and my U.S.-Iran war project. Still going to put out the next video on that. I've been kind of holding off because I don't like when things go from hypothetical to reality. Feels kind of weird making videos about that, but I do want to continue the project. So appreciate everybody. Have a great night.